Good morning, everybody. Ryan Owens is my very special guest today, Friday, September 24th, 2021. A special thank you to my guest yesterday, the senator from Wisconsin's 25th District and current Senate Minority Leader, Miss Janet Bewley. Always nice chatting with her. In case you missed that show, you can find a recording of that and all of our other shows on our website at DrydenWire.com, on our Facebook page, on our videos tab, I believe, and then on our YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube and search for DrydenWire. And a reminder, this coming up Tuesday, Barron County Sheriff Chris Fitzgerald and I will be back for our latest Positive Tuesday with Ben and Fitzy Show episode. But today, I'm very excited to be chatting with Ryan Owens, who recently announced his candidacy for Wisconsin Attorney General. Ryan, good morning, sir. How are you?
Hey, Ben, doing well.
This is great because this is the way I'd like to actually have these first-time guests on. I have never spoken to you before. I believe it's your campaign manager, Nathan, who, by the way, you need to pay that dude more. So I have a lot of conversations with a lot of people that are campaign managers or in comms, and most of them are good. Some of them are outstanding. Nathan is legit. I love that dude. He's great. So I've talked to him, and that's how we got this set up, but I know almost nothing about you. I can't wait to find out more about you organically. So when everyone is watching and they're learning about you, I'm learning about you at the same time. So I'm very excited.
Great.
So obviously, first time on, you're running for Attorney General. I wanted to get into the politics part of it, your views and opinions about the Attorney General's office. Why are you running? Josh Call, Evers, tons of politics stuff. But first, let's get to know you a little bit. Where are you from? Let's go back to, not to say birth, a little too far back. But where were you born and raised?
Yeah, I like to tell people I've never been bungee jumped before. I ever been was being born. So there you go. So I was born actually in Madison. My mom and dad and my brother, they lived down in Edgerton at the time. And came up here. I was born about 3 months early, so it was a tough one for my mom. So we came up here, but I was raised up in the Wausau area, up in Marathon County. Sure. Went to high school at DC Everest. And, it was a good place to grow up. It was big enough that we had things to do that we wanted to do, enough offerings, but it was also small enough that we didn't have to worry about a whole lot of crime. It was nice. We spent a lot of time out, my buddies and I, just out on our bicycles, riding around the neighborhood and, playing Super Nintendo, that kind of stuff. So I think I was the first person in Wausau to have a Super Nintendo.
So you're a Super Nintendo guy. I was a Sega Genesis guy.
Oh,
remember there was like this divide.
We can't hang, man.
Yeah, can't hang. Well, you lost my vote, so sorry. So, and I remember those two because that was before cell phones. I mean, it wasn't that long ago. It's not like, the 1800s, but it was before cell phones, for computers and internet. At least when it was readily available for everyone to access anything and everything all the time. I was telling our kids recently, I just biked everywhere, like all the time. I just got on the bike. I biked to school, and it was a day off. It was the summer. Just bike. Don't know why. It was just something that we did. Right? Yeah,
no, same here. And I try to tell my kids, I've got two boys, one's 15, one's 13. Nice. I try to tell them the same thing. It's like, Dad, what did you do when you were a kid? Well, we got on our bicycles and we rode over to a friend's house to see if they wanted to do something, right? We didn't have to plan everything. We just got up and went, and it was nice. Yeah. It was cool. We were able to do that sort of thing. So good place to live, a good place to grow up.
So hold on real quick. So when you're in high school, we all have some extracurricular, right? Band, choir, 4-H, chess club, something, sports. What was your thing that you really enjoyed doing that was a part of the school, but, not classes or something?
Yeah, so I played soccer, and I was a captain of the soccer team. I really enjoyed it. And actually, so here's a story. I was relatively good at soccer, and the summer after I graduated from high school, I played Badger State games with a lot of the guys who were on the UW soccer team.
Sweet.
And I told them that I wanted to walk on to the team that coming fall. And the captain of the team at the time was like, "Yeah, absolutely, dude. Like this, you're good. You can do this. It should be good." I'm like, "All right, awesome." He's like, "Just show up to the team, show up to the first practice." So the morning of that first practice, my alarm goes off, and I kind of roll over in bed and I look at the alarm. And honestly, at that time, I was dating a girl who was a year behind me, still in high school, so she was still there. And all of these things just started rushing through my head, like, oh my God, if I play soccer for UW, I'm not going to be able to see her every weekend. And what am I going to do? And blah, blah, blah. So, man, I rolled over and I turned that alarm clock off.
No.
And I went back. No, it gets better. It gets better.
Okay, good.
That year, UW won the national championship in soccer. So, whatever. I really don't care. I've had a blessed life. I do not care about it, but it is a story.
Yeah, it's one of those potentially missed. But at the same time, if you had a chance to do it over again, you probably do the same thing, because boy, there's just something about we boys, not even men at that point, boys that are just what we don't do for our girlfriends, and we just think that is the most important thing in the whole world. And that's, you could make a legitimate argument for that. But I had some similar situations. 2 months later. Yeah. Oh no, that's the worst. Okay, so you graduate from, what is it, DC Everest High School. Then what? When you're a senior, so when I graduated, I didn't know. I knew I wasn't going to college because I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I just didn't want to go to. I'll figure it out later. When you were a senior, did you know, I know where I'm going because I know what I want to do?
I did not. And in fact, I owe my older brother, Jason, a real debt on this score. I thought for sure that I was going to go either to UW Stevens Point or UW Eau Claire because I was going to become a teacher. I thought I wanted to become a teacher and go to one of those two schools. They had good programs. And plus, they were a little bit closer to home. And my brother at the time, he was going to UW-Madison, and he called me up one night and he said, "Hey, have you applied here?" And I said, "No, I don't really want to go to UW-Madison. I just, it's too big and there's, a lot of nonsense there, but I just don't want to deal with that stuff." And he said, "Look, what's the cost to apply?" I said, "Well, it's $75." He goes, "Why don't you pay the money, apply, let them tell you yes or no, and then if they say yes, then it's your decision. So you do it. I mean, you put yourself in the driver's seat." And I said, "No, I don't want to do it." And he goes, "Look, I'll pay the $75 fee." So I said, "Fine, whatever." And I put in the application. And then the day I got accepted, my father sat at the kitchen table with me and he said, "Man, think about it. You could play soccer for UW-Madison, maybe." I thought, wow, yeah, I could be a Badger. And that was it then. At that point, I'm like, all right, yeah, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go there instead. So had it not been for my brother,
right? That's ridiculous.
Very different.
His just paying the $75. Had he not,
he never paid it. No, he never paid it. Stinking deadbeat. He never paid it.
Yeah, what a jerk! I tell you. Wow. So you go there and okay, I'm accepted. Did you know what you wanted to be? Or was like, I don't know. What do they say? Just do your generals. I'm like, I thought that was high school, but whatever.
Right.
So when did you? At what point, when you were accepted, did you find out what you wanted to go into as a major?
Yeah, it didn't take me a long time. I mean, my first semester, I had a class on religious studies that I really, really liked. Ooh. And I thought for a little bit about maybe going that route. I also had a class in anthropology that was okay, astronomy that was okay, and then a class on world history that I liked. So I started gravitating a little bit more towards those classes, the political science history classes. And my main area of emphasis at the time was early American constitutional history. So ratification era, slightly before, slightly after. Sure. I still love that. I absolutely love that side of things. I love to study that stuff.
Sorry, there was I want to buy this. Oh, I see. That was not a question for you. Sorry. So what was the? When did you make the decision, and what was that decision? I mean, you were thinking about being a teacher, maybe well, you didn't say it, but maybe a pastor or going into the ministry or something along those lines. What did you end up deciding to do?
Well, I became a political science and a history double major, and
you're one of those double majors, overachievers.
Right. Yep. And I really enjoyed it. I worked up at the Capitol as well. I was an assembly page for a number of years, and
Hold on. What is that?
Oh,
The
it's an
assembly
assembly
page?
page. So, basically, you're a messenger. You carry messages back and forth between assembly reps,
Oh.
legislative reference bureau, things like that. Sort of
Sure.
a courier, but you also help the sergeant at arms with some staffing issues from time to time as well. So, yeah, it was, anytime you're watching C-SPAN or something and you see a lot of the younger people maybe on the
Hmm.
floor,
Hmm.
those are the pages.
I
They're
just
there
thought
to
they were
kind of run.
interns. Mhm.
Yeah, some may be, but most of them are probably pages. Um,
Interesting.
but yeah, it was cool. I mean, I saw a lot of good and a lot of stupid when I did that.
What do you
You know,
mean? Give
I
me an example of stupid.
well, I remember one year the assembly was passing a pretty controversial bill, and all these protesters came into the Capitol, and they got out of hand. I mean, they were climbing the walls inside the assembly chamber, outside the assembly chamber, and I remember standing next to a Capitol officer, and I said, "Hey, are you going to do something about this? This is ridiculous." And he looked at me and he said, "Man, I was here in the '60s and the '70s. This is nothing." And my first thought was like,
Yeah.
"All right, that's fine." But then I
Sure.
thought to myself, "Wait a second, this it just doesn't seem right." We see these images of people climbing the walls outside the U.S. Capitol, and that's just
Yeah.
that's disgusting. And you see it here inside the Capitol, and nobody did anything about it. I just thought, God, that's not good.
Was this the only time I can recall of something that was very well known was Scott Walker Act 10? Was it back then?
Oh
Like,
no, this was I think Assembly Bill 104, which was to define marriage as between a man and a woman. So this would
oh,
have been like 98 maybe.
oh wow, that was way before. Holy cow!
Yeah, I'm old.
Well, you don't look it. You look like you're 14 still.
Yeah, no, tell me, it's a blessing and a curse. I'm actually 45, but I get this question all the time.
Sure. Well, maybe that's why, like going back, we were talking about bikes and kids. I'm 44. I'll be 45 in a month and a half or a couple months, something. So maybe that's it, right? And by the way, do you
Could be.
watch the TV show Psych? Because you would love it, because it's all about like how when we grew up.
Yeah, I have seen that. I like it quite a bit
Yeah,
actually.
yeah. So you double major, you graduate, double major, then what?
Well, then I went into law school, straight into law school,
So
and
I'm sorry, when you went into these double major, did you know that was what the end goal was, is law school, or it wasn't towards the end going, you know what I could do with this?
yeah, it was more that it was here's what I can do with this, and you spend a lot of time, of course, as I did in my classes, looking at constitutional history
Hmm.
and legal evolution over time. It was like, all right, this is awesome. I want to do something with this. I want to be a part of this story. And so, yeah, I thought let's go to law school. Let's be a part of it. It wasn't my design
Sure.
originally. I didn't really, I wasn't entirely sure what I wanted to do. My grandfather was an attorney. He lived up in Portage. He was a very, very good, well known, and highly respected member of his community. So there was a little bit of precedent for it in the family, and so yeah, I decided at that point let's go to law school, and
I
I
got
went
nothing
to
else to do. I guess I'll go to law school.
UW.
Ay. So
Well,
I'm.
yeah, it was all right. I mean, law school is it's probably not as hard as most people think it is. I think there's an aura around it that we put up to keep people out from time to time. But it was an
Smart.
interesting experience. Let me put
Yeah.
it that way.
So you graduate. Or you get your law degree, right? You have to take the bar. I've heard that was like terrible, because I've seen TV shows and movies, and they're always talking about, oh, the bar, it's the worst.
Yeah. Here's the thing: if you go to UW Madison, it's the only state in the country, Wisconsin is, that still does this. If you go to UW Madison and you graduate with over a certain degree, number, and a certain like GPA, and you take required courses, you do not have to take the bar.
What?
They waive you in. Yeah, yep, they waive you in at that point. So it's pretty nice.
What's the thinking behind that, or the what do you believe is a reasoning for that? Because it's like, well, if you get I don't know, 3.8 or higher, or whatever the thing is, that yeah, you clearly know what you're doing, right? I'm
Yeah, I mean, I think
assuming.
I think that's it. Yeah, it's we want to make sure that the students take these classes. I mean, these are the classes that would prepare you for the bar, basically, anyways. And so, if you can establish that you've met all these criteria, then there you go. It's actually, I think, it's a good idea. It's efficient. saves money. I think it's great, and of course we benefited from it. So
Yeah. So I'm just going to go down here. Yesterday we put up just a preview of a post on DrydenWire.com that you were going to be on this morning, and Nathan had sent some bio info and under experience. I'm just going to go through all of these because we could spend like an hour going through each one and talking about what these all mean. But we're going to kind of just fly through these. J.D. Law, University of Wisconsin, Madison. J.D. stands for what?
Juris Doctorate.
Juris Doctor. Okay, you made that up. PhD, Political Science, Washington University in St. Louis. Washington University in St. Louis. They need to rename their university. What is that? Where was in St. Louis? So you went to St. Louis?
Yeah. So after I was in private practice for a number of years, I found myself frustrated a lot, like not being able to figure out broader answers, right? So you come in, you've got a client who wants you to answer some sort of a legal principle, and you find the bottom line, and then you move on to the next project. That's fun, but I wanted to learn more, so thought, what should I do? Went down to St. Louis, got the PhD, focusing on legal institutions and judicial behavior, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that little stuff. I mean, whatever. I just went down and quick got a PhD. Governor Tommy Thompson's legal office. How long were you there?
About a year, I think it was. We did pardons and extraditions work for him.
And you like this work, right? I mean, okay. Public Service Commission of Wisconsin. I don't know what that is.
So they regulate the utilities in Wisconsin, electric, natural gas. They used to do more telecommunications stuff, things like that. And so I worked there for, about a year and a half or so.
Sure.
Interesting work. But after I did that for a little bit, I decided I want to go into private practice and be on that side.
And that must lead to the next one, attorney at Reinhardt Borner? Berner and Van Duren, telecommunications law. What is telecommunications law?
So this was not long after Congress broke up a lot of the monopolies, right? So SBC, AT&T, they had all these monopolies and then broke them up. And then in 1996, Congress came in and said, we need to break it up even further, basically. So we represented a lot of the smaller startup telecommunications companies that needed to share the facilities that the previous monopoly holders had. And so trying to pry those things out of their hands was something that we did quite regularly.
Next on here was a faculty member at Harvard University. Seriously, dude, really? That's awesome. What is it? A faculty member. Well, how do you get that?
Okay. So, you get the PhD, and then a lot of people want to go teach, right? So, you write your dissertation, you got to go out and give job talks, things like that, and you get hired on, and then you're a faculty member after you go through a job talk. And so I'm diabetic. I'm type 1 diabetic.
Okay.
And it happened to me when I turned about 30 years old or so. I was actually on the job market in graduate school. Yeah, it was super weird, man. Totally weird. But anyway, so this is actually how I got the job at Harvard. You talk about like weird things that happen, right? So I'm uncontrolled diabetic at the time. My blood sugars are into the 500s, which is just horrible for you. I had no idea what was going on because, who turns diabetic when they're 30 years old, right?
Yeah.
So I go to give my job talk, and there's a guy in the audience, a very, very big name in the field. And he asked me this question. And it was an interesting question, but it wasn't relevant for what I was really talking about. Now, when you're uncontrolled diabetic and your blood sugars are super high like that, you tend to get a little loopy, and you don't have, no pun intended, you don't have all your faculties together at the time, right?
Right.
So this guy asked me this question, and I looked at him dead in the eye in front of all these people, and I said, well, Ken, because apparently we were on a first name basis. I said, well, Ken, that's an interesting question, but unfortunately for both of us, it is completely irrelevant to what I'm talking about. And then I just blew right by it, right? Never in a million years would I have said that had I had all of my wits about me. But I could see every single person in that room kind of sit back like this. Oh, and you can see my Reagan Bush T-shirt here as I sit back. Every single one of those faculty members leaned back and they're like, holy cow, this guy can really bring it. I got the job offer the next day. the next day I got the job offer. I got off of the airplane and somebody called me as I was getting off the airplane and like, yeah, do you want to work here? I'm like, yeah, right.
I mean,
So
let
it
me
was
think
cool.
about that. Yeah.
Yep, it was cool. I enjoyed it. It was a good experience.
Oh my goodness. Next up here, we have Represented Senators Mike Lee and Ted Cruz before the United States Supreme Court. What was that?
Yeah, that was interesting too. So Mike Lee had this issue in Utah where the Utah legislature, which was dominated by Republicans, didn't like the fact that the Utah Republican Party was selecting its candidates through a caucus system. It thought that the caucus system generated candidates that were too extreme, and that was a problem then in the general election. So the state legislature tried to impose on them the requirement that they use a primary rather than a caucus. Now, of course, political parties, are private entities, more or less, and they have associational rights. And so we represented Mike Lee in his argument that, hey, this violates our First Amendment free association right, because you're telling us how we have to select our candidates, select our members, that kind of thing. Yeah, it was an interesting experience. I enjoyed it a lot. I mean, we ultimately the court did not decide to take the case on the merits. If you want the Supreme Court to hear a case, you first have to request them to do so. And there's a lot of work involved with that.
I
But
can imagine.
they don't have to take hardly any cases at all. They choose the ones that they want. So ultimately, they didn't want to get into that situation in that case. But
Sure.
but it was a hell of an interesting experience.
I can imagine that, and that leads to the next one. Filed amicus briefs at the Wisconsin Supreme Court. We're going to go actually over the next ones here. Full endowed professor at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. What does that mean? Full endowed professor? I don't know that world.
Oh, so the way this works, kind of on the hierarchy, I guess, is you come in as an assistant professor and you're not tenured. And after you're there for a number of years, sometimes it's 5, sometimes it's 8, 9, 10, you get tenure, and that puts you up to an associate professor. And then once you've done that for a little bit, if your record merits it, you go up to a full professor, which is a step above associate there. And then after that, the next highest and like the highest spot you can get is an endowed chair position, and that is where you have a private donor who will come in and give money to the department. And at that point, basically, that covers the cost of portions of your salary. And it's kind of an honorific thing, but also comes with financial stipend for research.
Nice.
Yeah.
Holy
So
cow.
it's cool.
Yeah. Then we have 3 here left. Again, this was off of your experience. These are some bullet points. The third of the last year, affiliate faculty of UW-Madison's Law School and the La Follette School of Public Affairs.
Yep. Yep. So, if you do research, focus on areas that overlap extensively with different programs, things like that, they'll grant you affiliate status, so you can be affiliated with that school, with that department.
Okay. And then inaugural director and creator of the Tommy G. Thompson Center on Public Leadership. How did you get that? Or what led to that?
Well, when I came back to Wisconsin, and I looked around campus, I looked around the state, and I thought to myself, man, there's just not much here in honor of Governor Thompson. And he was, in my mind, one of, if not the best governor in Wisconsin's history. I think Scott Walker did a hell of a job as well. But I thought Tommy, boy, he did a lot for the university, a lot for the state, really turned it around. We got to do something in honor of him. So I thought, well, why don't we create a center devoted to Tommy, focused on public leadership, and at the same time, expand some of the offerings that we have here, expand our intellectual diversity on college campus, make sure that we have people who are talking about folks like Tommy Thompson and others who typically don't get as much attention on college campuses. I mean, we don't often talk about conservative politicians and the great policies that they've put through. So I wanted to accomplish all of those things. And so we created that center, and I ran it for, I don't know, about 4 years or so. Great experience. We had some fantastic speakers. I thought we did some good research on a number of issues.
You just said that you don't see a lot of discussion or talking about conservatives in college and campuses. Why do you think?
Well, I mean, gosh, how much time do we have left?
As much as you want.
Yeah, right on. There are a number of reasons why. I think one of them is that universities have become uh, dominated by the left. There's no question about it. You look at the data on this. There was a book that came out. The name eludes me right now. Maybe I'll think of it in a little bit. But they did some analyses on self-identification, ideologically and politically, of college professors. And in the social sciences and excuse me, in the humanities, there's something like 4 to 12% of faculty identified as conservatives or Republicans. Everybody else was
Wow.
liberal or progressive, except for 18% who identified as Marxists. So, you know, it's just
Weird.
there are not many conservatives in academia. And to be fair, I think that there are a number of liberals who are able to shed their ideological beliefs and stuff when they go in the classroom. I don't want to throw all of them under the bus, but there are a number of faculty though who are not able to do that. And even if they are, right, you and I both know that experiences can matter, perspectives matter. You can try as much as you want to put yourself in somebody else's shoes. You're not always able to do it. And so even if you have a number of liberals on college campuses who are trying to be down the middle and see things in other ways, they can't do it, right?
Right.
What we need, I think, for everybody's benefit, for our students' benefits, for the educational benefits, but also for the long-term benefits of higher education, is we need to have more conservatives in academia. That's the only way we're going to right this ship.
So you decided, so we've gone through your experience, and now we're up to, at some point, you decided to run for Attorney General.
I did.
When did you
I did.
make that decision? Was it something that has gone on for a while, something that's been, in your brain, like this bug, man, I've always known I wanted to, or you just wake up one day and you're like, I know what I want to do. I want to be Attorney
Yeah,
General. How did this all come to be?
it was just one of these deals where after the 2018 election and then into 2020, it really bothered me seeing some of the leadership deficits that we've seen across the state. The leadership deficit is it's huge and it's getting bigger and bigger all the time. And honestly, a few things really trigger this for me.
Mm-hmm.
One was last summer watching as those looters, the rioters, they pulled down that statue of
Yeah.
Hans Christian Heg.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll get to Kenosha in a second, but this preceded it. They grabbed that statue, they decapitated, pulled it down, dragged it through the lake, and then dragged it through the streets and dumped it in the lake. And I remember just watching that, thinking, this is mob rule, right? This is mobocracy, and it is not good. It scared the living hell out of me. And I thought to myself, we cannot allow this to continue any further. It cannot happen. We have had periods like this throughout history, but we've always had leaders who would step up to the challenge and do something about it. And so I waited and waited. And then I waited a little bit more. And still, we got really very little from our leaders about this thing. And it made me sick to my stomach. And then we get Kenosha. And the governor comes out with that message that is beyond horrific,
Yeah.
where he says, we may not know all the facts here, but this would not be the first time that an
Yeah.
unarmed black man was mercilessly slaughtered at the hands of police. I thought, that is as bad as it gets from a governor. And then the attorney general, what did he do? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. So
Yeah.
for me, it was at that point, I thought, okay, well, we've got this problem is even bigger than we're all aware of. And I thought, all right, I got to do something. I just can't stand back and watch this stuff happen. I'm in a position where I can maybe try to do something about it. So let's give it a shot.
And that's bizarre, right? Usually when I talk to people that want to run for something, and I ask, why do you want to run for it? Usually it is something along the lines of that, whether it's, maybe they don't say this, publicly, but, privately, it's because I want this stability, or I want this, it's kind of more for them. I mean, not all the time, but a lot of the times it just is what they think of, and this would be good. Maybe it's for their career or something. But you're saying that I really had no intention of ever running for attorney general. But I looked and I saw the situation. I said, someone's got to step up and do something. I'm going to. So it was almost like you're
Yeah.
seeing all these situations going, no, we need better. And you know
Yeah.
what? I'm
Yeah.
going to do it.
Sure, and truth be told, like, look, anybody who ever studies politics, follows it, teaches it, whatever, at some point in time, they always envision themselves in these situations. What would I do, right?
Yeah.
Um, but when this stuff happened, and then I look at the attacks on our constitutional liberties that are going on, I thought, holy cow, this really is a flipping point in our country's
Mm,
history. So,
yeah.
yeah, I'm not going to say that I've never, ever, ever, ever thought about it. Everybody thinks about it one way or the
I
other. I was
suppose.
never
Sure.
truly
Sure.
serious about it. And then this happened. I thought, oh my God, we got to do something about it.
Yeah. Brad Schimmel. Have you spoken with Brad Schimmel
Sure.
at
Yeah.
all? So Brad Schimmel, when he was still the Attorney General, I had asked, because I just have this, it's obnoxious, it's annoying to people, but when I talk to the people that I talk to, I always like asking their opinions of other people. It just kind of helps, me frame people's views and kind of getting the pulse of, in this case, it was law enforcement. I talked to sheriffs, some chiefs of police, I think even, oh shoot, I think I have to mention his name here. Shelley Police Chief Dave Wilson. Yeah, that's for a different show, but we have to do that. And I asked about Brad Schimmel. I don't know. Do you like him? Now, we're not talking about judges, district attorneys, or ADAs, just law enforcement and predominantly
Mhm.
sheriffs in our area. They
Right.
were all very positive things.
Mhm.
Badger State Sheriff Association, if there's a meeting, Brad Schimmel's at that meeting. Anything regarding law enforcement, he's got our back. He's our guy, right?
Right. Right.
Then Josh Call gets elected. Over the last couple of years, every time I talk to the same people I talked to before, again, predominantly sheriffs, and ask them, same question. How's Josh Call? What are your views? And universally, I get the, and it's, okay, got it. You don't have to tell me anything else. Just, it's not really glowing reviews. It's not huge fans. Now, that's just our area, right? Northwest Wisconsin, which is different than Southeast Wisconsin and Southwest Wisconsin. When you talk to sheriffs or people in law enforcement in your campaign already, I'm sure you've had those conversations, or they have reached out to you and they say, we need this as our attorney general. What are they telling you that they need?
Yeah. It's the same thing. I'm hearing the same thing that you're getting as well. What they're saying is they want somebody who is going to work with them, who is going to have their back. And that doesn't mean that they're always going to be, in the tank for them or what have you. And that's what they tell me. They say, we don't expect somebody to be our best friend all the time, but we expect them to show us professional courtesy. They expect the attorney general to work with them, to listen to them. And they're not getting that from this attorney general. I've heard from many sheriffs, for example, that as Kenosha was burning, they called him. There were a number of them on a conference call with the attorney general. And they said, look, we understand the politics of this. We don't expect you to sing our praises and tell everybody that we're great, but we do expect you to show us the professional courtesy to tell these looters, rioters, that they can't throw urine-filled bottles at us. They can't
Yeah.
throw bricks and rocks at us. And his response to them, and I think this is telling for their entire relationship, his response to them was, I can't do that because it'll look like I'm taking sides. And if you just think about that for a minute, it really is incredibly disturbing that you have an attorney general who refuses to stand with law enforcement in the face of those who are threatening them, who are incredibly hostile to them because he's afraid of the politics of the situation. And that's what it gets down to is they believe that he cares more about his political base and his political future than he does their safety and our safety. And I think we see that on a daily basis. He takes the wrong side on so many issues.
Yeah.
He's just simply too radical for Wisconsin. There's no doubt in my
So
mind.
there's a couple examples, right? Well, really, we'll put all that into one, the statue, and then Kenosha, etc. Is there another example? Give me one more example of something that you have seen Josh Cole do. And I'm not trying to bang on the dude. I'm just saying
Yeah.
right. It is what it is. That you have seen him do from more of a policy standpoint, more of a decision-making standpoint, that you looked and it was just like a face palm going, what are you doing?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's an obvious one that comes immediately to mind. And this is more than a head scratcher. This is one where you just almost have to sit down because it's so ludicrous. So I just put out an article last week, and it's been picked up by a number of folks. Right now, Josh Call is using the power of the Department of Justice in the state of Wisconsin to try to force a private company to hire a man who was convicted of beating, strangling, and raping his girlfriend multiple times. And not just one girlfriend, but multiple girlfriends over the course of years. So what happened is this guy got angry with his girlfriend, threw her on a bed so hard that she bounced off and hit her face on the wall. He got out a belt and he whipped her and beat her, and then he raped her. So this guy goes to prison. Yeah, I mean, this is just a real dirtbag. If I could put it bluntly, all right. This is just.
I think that's actually nice of you.
Yeah,
just saying dirtbag. Yeah.
Yeah. So the guy goes to prison for 2 years, and that's a separate issue. Why it was only 2 years, but he goes for 2 years. He comes out. He applies for a job at this lighting firm that sells lighting. They conduct an interview with him. Excuse me. And the interview goes reasonably well. They say, we'll give you a conditional offer of employment. Conditional based on whether you pass a criminal background test.
Yeah, that's normal, right? Yeah.
So they find out then, one way or another, they find out about the background, and they say, no, we're not going to hire you because of what you did. Now,
hold on. Stop right there.
Yeah.
I've run businesses before. DrydenWire, I'm a private business owner now, but I used to run businesses for others. That's standard operating procedure. So I don't understand why we're even going on any further than this, because that is, okay, background check, didn't pass this, sorry, not going to hire you. End of story. Right. It should be the end of the story, but clearly there must be more here. It just blows me away how this story isn't already stopped right now.
Yeah, so here's the thing. Under Wisconsin state law, it is illegal to discriminate against an employee or a potential employee based on their criminal background.
Well, if they didn't check felony, if you've ever been convicted of a felon, which oftentimes they don't, and then you find out they do, well, you lied on your application, so we're not going to hire you.
Fair, yeah, but that's different, right? That's a misrepresentation. So that's not, admittedly, that's not what occurred here.
Okay.
So they find out about the guy's background, and then they say, we're not going to hire you because of it. And so under state law, you can't discriminate based on felony conviction unless, and here's the thing, unless you can show that there's a substantial relationship between what that person was convicted of and the job that they would be performing for you, okay? If you can show that it substantially relates one way or the other, then you can refuse to hire them. So, somebody who gets arrested for, molesting kids, something like that, you're not going to be able to work as a bus driver, right? You rob a bank, you can't be a bank teller, things like that.
Right, sure.
So this guy applies, they say no, he challenges. What does the firm say? The firm says we don't want to hire him because there are places in our warehouse that are unsupervised. We have roughly 550 women or so who work for us, and there are places where it's unsupervised. There are places in this warehouse where it's so loud that you cannot hear a person, a woman in this case, scream. So we can't do that. There are many other instances as well where this guy would potentially be alone with women. So we're not going to hire him.
Sure.
It seems eminently reasonable. But Josh Call, so what happens at that point? The guy who didn't get the job, he sues the company. And he sues the company under Wisconsin law. He said, you discriminated against me based on my felony conviction in violation of the law. Josh Call sides with this guy at the agency level, at the trial court level, at the Court of Appeals level, and now they've gone to the state Supreme Court to litigate this case. So he has gone through every stage of the process and use the state's resources to try to compel an employer to hire somebody with that kind of a background.
Well, first of all, like every woman in that building will quit if they actually do. I'm just saying. They're all going to walk out. So there must be, obviously you're saying it in the way that is, you're like, I don't understand what he's doing. I'm sure he's had to address this. What is his argument for, this is actually why I did it, and, whatever that is. He must have said something at some point why he made that decision.
Yeah, so their defense to this is that it's our obligation to litigate. Excuse me. It's our obligation to defend what the agencies do and to defend state law, right? That's our obligation, which is technically true, but nonsensically applied here because they had many, many off-ramps. They could have settled the case. They could have refused to appeal a case from this thing, right? They had a lot of opportunities to just make this case, settle out one way or another, and they chose not. They easily could have done it. They chose not to do it. And in fact, if you look at what Josh Call has done on many issues, he has refused to follow the state law on things. So he likes to cherry pick from time to time, and he picked this one because he's pushing, I think, a very left-wing agenda in terms of who you have to hire. I think we can all get on the idea that we want prisoners to come out and be rehabilitated, give
Yes.
them a second chance.
Yes.
And particularly in a marketplace where we need workers,
Yes.
right? We want to make sure that people get out there, rehabilitated, they have a second chance with life.
Mhm.
At the same time, though, we can't forget the common sense of this and the practicality on the ground. And it's just absolutely crazy that this is the hill that they want to die on. I just don't understand it.
See, I think your problem is you're using logic. Don't do that. No.
I should try not to.
Yeah, try not to. One last thing I wrote down. So I Googled your name this morning because, again, I didn't know much about you at all. I learned so much, and thank you again for doing this.
Yep.
So I just Googled your name and then just clicked news. I didn't click on any of the stories. I just want to see if there's any commonalities. And some of the headlines or some of the sub-headlines, it was something to do with something you said about Governor Evers and a mask mandate. I didn't click on any of them because I didn't know what it was about. What is this about?
Okay. Yeah, so what's going on here is that it's sort of it's a contextual political thing. Shocker, right?
What?
So there's a primary going on right now for this position, right, on the Republican side, and people discovered that my primary opponent had charged 10 people with violating the governor's safer at home order. Businesses, individuals, one of whom.
Really?
One of whom was a landlord who rented his house out to a grandmother who let their kids or grandkids or something swim in a pool. And for that, they were charged with violating the safer at home order, right? And so, I thought that was a little silly, and I've said as much just, kind of privately to folks.
Sure.
Well, so because of that, now I think there are people then who scoured my record to see, has Owens ever done anything like that at all?
Right.
And so what happened is I did a podcast in April when the pandemic was just starting. And it was a podcast that the university was conducting. And it was supposed to be about the Supreme Court's abortion case that was coming up. And at the last minute, they said, by the way, we're going to ask you some questions about Evers' decision to try to postpone the April election. I said, fine, whatever, I'll do it. So we were talking about that. I railed the governor for failed leadership about 99% of that podcast. At the very end, I thought, well, this is a UW thing. I had to point out something good that he did. Just, right?
Yeah.
So I meant to congratulate him for doing the public emergency, right? So if a governor or president declares a state of emergency, that frees up resources. You can get beyond normal bureaucratic channels.
Right. Yeah.
Tony Evers did that on March 13th. Donald Trump did it on March 14th. So, but my problem is rather than saying he did a good job on that, I accidentally said he did a good job with safer at home, right? And so they're saying, Owens supports lockdowns and blah, 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 which is nonsense. Do not support lockdowns at all. I thought that the arguments that we were having at the time were deeply constitutional arguments. Yeah. These were things that we needed to talk about. Try to persuade our colleagues, try to persuade people on the left that, this is an argument that we can win. So at any rate, I said safer at home and I meant the public, the declaration of emergency. And so,
and now they're killing you for it. Well, that's actually pretty good, right? I mean, if you're obviously running for attorney general, that's a legit job, man. We only got one in each state. Which means everyone's going to pick everybody's thing apart. They're going to look through everything and anything. And that so far is the worst that they have found is you said 1% one positive thing about, and maybe I meant to say this, but I said this, but even if you did mean the safer at home, big deal. No kidding. We've had guests on, and Fitchy and I in our Positive Tuesday shows, and other politicians have come on. I have said over and over again, when this was all happening, the safer at home, I'm fine with it. It was 30 days. It wasn't very long, and it's a new thing. Nobody really knows. I think the governor's doing what he thinks is in the best interest of the citizens of Wisconsin. I don't think this is political. I'm going to give him a pass on this. It'll be fine. Now, after that, then I actually started criticizing, going, okay, the extension, no, we can't be doing that. And the 25% indoor capacity, that's a stupid idea. I mean, it's a good idea, but this is bad. But in terms of just that initial safer, I was fine with it. Let's be smart. Let's be safe. I have zero problem with that at all. So even if you did say that, which you didn't, I mean, you said safer at home, but you didn't mean it that way.
Right.
Even if so what?
Yeah, I think the point here is that hopefully in Wisconsin, hopefully elsewhere, we can give our leaders the benefit of the doubt at first and see what happens.
I think so. We should.
Right, and I'm just saying, like in general, this is nothing to
Yes.
do with Evers in particular or whatever. But we have always had this rally around the flag effect. We want to be able to give leaders the
Yes.
benefit of the doubt, but then they got to put their money where their mouth is. And I
Right.
think a lot of people in Wisconsin probably were willing to give the governor at first some benefit of the
Yep.
doubt.
Mhm.
I'm not saying that one way or the other here, but it came pretty clear, I think, quickly on that what he was trying to do was push it in an
Yeah,
unconstitutional
then
way.
it went sideways, in my opinion, quickly. And I
Yep,
think a
it
lot
did.
of people's opinion.
Very quick, very, very sideways, very quickly. And I
Yeah,
was out in the forefront on some of these things. I challenged Dane County when they tried to shut down all private religious schools. I filed a brief in the state Supreme Court
of course you
challenging what
did.
they did. So we've been pushing this stuff, man.
That's awesome. Ryan, we're already way past our time, but is there anything else that you wanted to make sure that you talked about? Oh, where can people go and find more information about you, first of all, but is there anything else that you wanted to make sure that you talked about?
No, I think you did a great job covering the waterfront of this thing. So just in terms of where you can go to find out more about me, you can go to owensforwisconsin.com. That's our website. You can check us out on Facebook or on Twitter. And yeah, the more the merrier. We're getting all over the state right now, breaking all kinds of records. So this thing is going full steam ahead. We're excited and
What
appreciate
records?
your
What do you
time.
mean breaking records? What records?
Last quarter, we broke a state fundraising record. We raised
What?
$310,000 in 2.5 months. That had never been done before by an incumbent or a challenger. So, I mean, we were out there and we
Wow.
did it from all 72 counties in the state of Wisconsin, which is really unusual. So,
We do have some openings for advertising on DrydenWire. Just saying. Ryan, thanks so much. Please come back on after you're on the campaign trail. Obviously, this was largely just about you and your bio and getting to know you a little bit. But I'd love to have you back on. You're welcome anytime, and then we could start going a little bit further into politics, views, agenda, stuff like that. That would be
yeah, great.
wonderful. But you are welcome anytime, man.
Thanks, Ben. You're a good dude. I appreciate being on the show.
Thank you so very much. Special thank you to my guest today, Ryan Owens. And of course, thank all of you for watching. I'll see you right back here on Tuesday when Barron County Sheriff Chris Fitzgerald and I will be back for our latest Positive Tuesday with Ben and Fitzy Show episode. Until then, have a wonderful weekend, stay safe, and as always, have a blessed day.